Mobile photography has come a long way in its relatively short history, and right now there are two heavyweights in the local smartphone space. In one corner, the newly launched Huawei P60 Pro with the industry's first ultralighting camera and ultralighting telephoto camera, and the new king of mobile photography according to camera ratings website TXOMark. Then there's the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra with a 200-megapixel main image sensor in the opposite corner. We've tested these phones extensively and brought them along with us on separate occasions to cover international tech events. Both have been praised for their camera performance too, and both claim to be the best camera phone on the local market. So let's put these two mainstream flagships through the paces, shooting in a variety of scenarios and lighting conditions, and find out which phone delivers the best results with their primary, ultra-wide, telephoto, and macro lenses. First, let's do some day and nighttime portrait shots and compare the results. The two did a terrific job in both day and night tests, but the Huawei P60 Pro performed better in low light, especially when the zoom is used. The Huawei flagship consistently produced brighter and sharper images thanks to its ultralighting main camera and ultralighting telephoto camera, which use a 48-megapixel RYYB sensor that allows more light into the lenses. It also helps that the Huawei P60 Pro's aperture opens wider at f1.4 compared to the Galaxy S23 Ultra's f1.7 lens, as this produces a more dramatic picture with a shallow depth of field. Speaking of which, you also notice that the new Huawei flagship produces a more convincing bokeh around the subject, as there is more blur and objects that are farther away from the point of focus, similar to how a professional camera takes portrait images. Now, let's do a telephoto comparison using the moon as our subject. It's pretty obvious that the Huawei P60 Pro did better in the zoom test, even when the zoom level is set to 100 times. Not only does the moon look much sharper and more detailed in the sample captured on it, it's also not overexposed like the S23 Ultras across different zoom settings. Huawei's top-end phone produced nicer-looking results in this set of telephoto images as well. The sharpness is just right, the contrast is considerably higher, and the highlights look better. There's less noise and visible color fringing too, particularly from the bright purple lights below the Ferris wheel. Again, this is because of the smartphone's 48-megapixel ultralighting telephoto camera and large aperture of f2.1, the widest ever in a periscope telephoto shooter. The camera takes in 178% more light to bring out rich details and brighten dimly lit scenes from far away. Both phones can offer a total zoom of 100 times, though we don't recommend maxing out the zoom on either device. You can get 10 times zoom photos that look great. 30 times zoom images deliver fairly sharp results as well. Next, let's compare ultra-wide shots taken with both smartphones. Unlike in previous tests, many of the results are neck and neck. It really boils down to which camera phone can capture photos to your liking. We prefer the color fidelity of the Samsung flagship, especially in low light, but there's less clipping and color bleed in the sample shot on the Huawei's premium model. But again, there's no clear winner between these two flagships, so it's a draw for Huawei and Samsung here. Both the Huawei P60 Pro and Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra are equipped with wide lenses on their main cameras, allowing you to capture great group photos without switching to the ultra-wide lens. When shooting groups of people, the details and skin tones should stay true to life. Based on our samples, Huawei's did an excellent job of capturing skin details and reproducing skin tones, while the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra at times delivered desaturated or inaccurate skin tones and lower contrast on faces. Skin tone rendering was only an issue in low-light scenes for the Huawei P60 Pro, but it was a consistent problem for the Samsung phone regardless of the lighting situation. Finally, let's look at some macro samples. Before we discuss the results, it's important to note the vastly different approaches to macro photography taken by these smartphones. The Huawei P60 Pro uses its dedicated 48-megapixel ultra-lighting telephoto camera for extreme close-ups, whereas the Samsung phone crops images from the 200-megapixel main sensor and denoises it when shooting a macro subject. Both approaches are capable of producing exceptionally good macro shots, though we prefer the more dramatic, blurred background look out of the Huawei device zoom lens. You can even use the same telephoto shooter to record a macro-style video while enjoying fast and accurate autofocus, courtesy of the laser autofocus sensor that assists the main camera. Unfortunately for Samsung, the same can't be said of the Galaxy S23 Ultra when shooting a macro video. There are other specs related to the camera experience that you might want to consider as well. The stunning Rococo Pearl color variant of the Huawei P60 Pro, for example, offers a nice grip to go along with an eye-catching aesthetic. Huawei says the Rococo Pearl variant introduces the industry's first pearl texture design, which incorporates mineral pearl powder on the back of the phone to achieve a one-of-a-kind texture. It was inspired by the Rococo ornamental style that prevailed in France in the 18th century that expresses the pursuit of art and beauty through the combination of asymmetrical curves, soft colors, and pleasing feel. Its matte finish and smaller screen size also lend to a great in-hand feel, and the inclusion of impact-resistant Conlon glass on top of the display should contribute to your peace of mind in case of accidents. If you want a bigger viewfinder though, few are bigger and sharper than the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra's massive WQHD Plus display. And you can use the included S Pen to take pictures or selfies by remotely controlling the phone's shutter. Both flagships deliver all-day battery life on a single charge. In terms of charging speeds though, the Huawei P60 Pro has the upper hand in both wired and wireless charging. The latest Huawei flagship supports fast charging up to 88 watts when using a cable, compared to the Galaxy S23 Ultra's 45 watts. Wireless charging is capped at 50 watts for the Huawei P60 Pro, though that's still 3 times faster than the Galaxy S23 Ultra's 15-watt wireless standard. We also found the Huawei P60 Pro's camera app easier to use and navigate, especially with a new zoom ring and camera quick menu baked into the software. In the Philippines, the Huawei P60 Pro starts at 58,999 for 8GB RAM and 256GB of storage, and 69,999 for the 12GB and 512GB variant. Meanwhile, the base model of the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra goes for $81,999. That price difference alone can sway a buyer's decision, but if you're just after the best camera phone in the market right now, the Huawei P60 Pro is the obvious winner of this comparison. Huawei, armed with its fairly new X-Mage imaging brand, has once again set a new benchmark for mobile innovation in photography.